Speaker Pro Tem, Mr. Kennedy. We passed a bill last session that will allow you to defer your taxes, House Bill 1284. And what it'll do, it'll allow you to defer your, if you're 65 years or older, active military, we took out some of the red tape, just so to speak, that will allow you to defer your property taxes till the point of sale. In that tax bill, it'll allow you to defer the property taxes, but then once you sell the property, you will have to then pay all the taxes with interest. But he'll give you more details on that, but especially you want to hear from him, because he's on that tax commission. But I just wanted, we did that, we tried to do the best we could last session. Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you, Representative Leader. Like Senator Cutter mentioned before, it's kind of a team sport down at the Capitol, so there are a lot of folks that are really leading the charge. I think that none of us are the ones who are doing kind of, leading the big conversations about land use or financing of housing, but many of our colleagues are, and we're somewhat plugged into that work. We actually have the legislative aide for Representative Stephen Woodrow here, who is one of the leaders on housing policy down at the Capitol, and there are many others. I think what's tricky about this conversation is that the price increases in housing are fundamentally driven by an imbalance between supply and demand. There's estimated to be a shortage of more than 100,000 housing units in the Denver metro area. And so you have that much more demand for housing than you have supply. It is going to drive up prices, particularly on rents. And so that's been a real challenge. I think that the number one thing that we can try to do is build more housing supply. And so there are ideas to try to incentivize affordable housing units. We are relying on our partners at the city government level to require certain numbers of affordable units in new housing developments. We are looking at certain kinds of assistance programs. There's talk about renters' rights. We're working on a just cause eviction bill that's continuing an effort from last year saying you can't be evicted without cause. Doesn't sound that complicated. It is a little bit more complicated than that, but I think it's really fundamentally about preserving a right of a renter to stay in their unit instead of just getting kicked out so someone can make a little more money off of the next renter. So a variety of things like that are happening, and I have to talk about the elephant in the room. There was a big land use bill last session that would have asserted a statewide prerogative over some of the decisions that have historically been locally made on zoning questions. That conversation is continuing. I'm not sure exactly where it's going and what we're looking at, but I don't think it's going to be quite the same as last year. I think there's been a better process. There has been much more engagement between state and local officials on that to try to figure out the right way to both incentivize, but then also require that we're doing good, high quality, affordable housing in the places where we need it the most. And the last thing I'll mention is something I'm excited about that's a few years away probably, but for those of you that live in Ward 2 or spend time in that area, the Department of Revenue runs a driver's license office there. Since COVID and people started going to remote work, fewer employees are there housed right now. And so the Department of Revenue is actually considering vacating that property and moving those staff to another location. I don't have the answer yet on what that means for driver's license services in Lakewood, but if they vacate that property, that would be an incredible parcel for affordable housing. It's a large piece of land. It is close to Colfax. It's close to the light rail. It's close to Casa Bonita. And so I'm working on connecting the dots so that when the state does get to that point of being ready to divest of that land, that Metro West Housing and Lakewood are poised to acquire that land to develop it for affordable housing. So I'm really excited about that.
Thank you. The next question.